Hi, ladies and gentlemen of the three-dimensional frequency. As I sit here today, toggling with the concept of reality fields, I come into a bit of confusion as I know that your entire existence here within the three-dimensional distortion of a reality field has been your entire reality for this whole entire time that you've been traversing within this lifescape, within this reality scope of the one and only Gaia's reality field of the three-dimensional frequency in which you're residing in which you're living in which you're walking down in this very moment in time. And as you walk those footsteps that you're so used to walking within her sphere of existence, once and for all, the next steps that you will take will lead you into that of a path of a descension field into the darkness within, to walk yourselves, to paddle yourselves, and to finally submerge yourselves in a darkness so steeped in distortions, the distortions in which you've always been steeped in, that you've always been paddling through, that you've always been living in, and that you've always been submerging yourself within, to finally step upon the paths and the cobblestones of the reality field within the next dimensional frequency of all reality fields within the 5-dimensional frequency that Gaia is heading towards. And as you light workers start to one by one awaken to this distortion field that I call the 3-dimensional frequency, and that we've designed to be such a dense frequency of existence for us to traverse within the exploration of self, of the ultimate lessons that we will be bringing home to an entire collective so lost in this field of existence. These lessons of ascension, symptoms, these lessons of the cobblestones that have been walked across, that of the waterscape that have been paddled within. These lessons that I speak of will be the ultimate lesson of the self, of a forever arching self, of the forgiveness within the self that will once and for all take precedence as you step into the 5-dimensional frequency of your reality field, for once and for final and for always. And as an entire collective so excitingly awakens to the reality field that they've been traversing through to come across the darkest energy, the darkest entities, the darkest demons across any energetic field of existence within Gaia's sphere, they will soon come to the realization that demons are real, that Yeshua is real, that God is real, that God is as real as it gets within a dimensional frequency of distortions that has been ripping the concept of God away from your flesh, away from your bones, away from your existence since the beginning of a time, of an arduous time of descension into this dimensional frequency, for you to traverse, for you to know, for you to sing upon the footsteps of. And as you holler out loud in desperation, and as you holler out loud in pure turmoil, and as you holler out loud for help from the ethers, from a God's frequency that has never left you, you will come to this realization that is deeper than any other realization that you've ever had the pleasure to come into, which is that all along you've been your savior this whole entire time. All along, you've been the only one of the only essence of a reality field within the 3-dimensional frequency this whole entire time. All along, your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your pastors, your teachers, the doctors of the hospitals that you've ever visited, the soldiers on TV, the news anchors broadcasting the news, has always been you. And as you sit there wondering about the concept that I deliver as you sit there pondering upon the concepts of a reality field so distorted within your field of existence, you will scratch your heads. You will bat your eyelashes. You will twist your guts in understanding of it all. And as you sit there in turmoil, in the essence that you've always been, it's just that you've been sitting in a reality field of distortions, of a normalcy so steeped in the essence of distortions, that you feel that this reality field of distortions and of turmoil is a normal reality field that you've always been sitting in. But I'm here to deliver news to you that this reality field that you're sitting in within the three-dimensional frequency was always meant to awaken you to the greater truths of a reality field above and beyond your perception field in this very moment in time. And as you travel your consciousness above and beyond to a place within a pocket, within a space, within the quantum verse, within the quantum realm, within the universes of existence, you, my friends, will become a portion of the essence of a conglomerated whole, of a consciousness, of a God's essence that has never ever left you. Since the beginning of this exploration of self, since the beginning of the essence of who and what you are. And as God is great and God is grand, God has no beginnings and no endings. As God is endless and forevermore arching and folding and unfolding in an energetic landscape of perverseness, in an energetic landscape of separation, in an energetic landscape of lessons to be learned through the tribulations that we traverse through this landscape of overarching separation of sorts. You will begin to conjoin, to join, to merge into the essence of a God's consciousness that had never ever left you since the beginning of this journey that we've been traversing on, since no end will ever come to an end so great that will carry you into the brightest beginnings of your existence, of your everlasting existence that never ever ends as the God consciousness that you've always been. And as I deliver this message to you, this news to you, through my channel of hope, through my channel of light, through my channel of exploration within a self, within a God's consciousness of the pocket of this quantum realm, you will wonder, you will scratch your heads, you will bat your eyelashes, and you will twist your intestines in essence of the hope of all that I deliver, of the faith, of the trust, of all that you've ever been, to come to the greatest realization that washes upon the shores of your souls forever and for always. And as you traverse down this road of existence, of overarching existence, of who and what you are within this consciousness scope of a reality field that you sit in, you will begin to come into the realization of all that you are not. And what you are not will surprise you, will shock you to the greatest extent of any shock that a human being can ever come to the realization of. And the fact of the matter is, you are God. You've been that God's consciousness since you fractaled from that God's consciousness, from that one and only God's consciousness of the self, from that one and only God's consciousness of the consciousness of unity consciousness. And as Yeshua had once upon a time stepped foot within our reality field, in essence of this unity consciousness that so much so belongs to us, as it belongs and still belongs and will always belong to the essence of the whole entirety of consciousness. And that is including the consciousness of Yeshua. As all he ever wanted to teach a collective so lost in the dark, so steeped in the distortions of the self, so essence of the essences that has ever transversed, transgressed, transprotected within this reality field as no words can describe. The transversiveness of the transversed reality field that we sit in. And as my sentences and the words that I use do not string together to make a cohesive whole of a concept that you've ever had the pleasure of witnessing or had the pleasure of listening and progressing into, I'd like to tell you one thing, that Yeshua was never a part of a God's consciousness, of a unity field, of a God's consciousness that is separate from the field that you sit in. That Yeshua has always and forever and will always be a part of you and I in ways that will surprise you, in ways that will tickle your soul, in ways that will forevermore place you in that pocket, in that space of a shocked perspective. As soon as you come to the realization of who and what he represented in a time of darkness, in a time of Gaia's sphere, when the light within the pocket, within the quantum verse, within Gaia's fields had diminished to a point of a perception within the darkness of all that there was, all that there is, and all that there has ever been, to a point of a perception field where he arrived. When he arrived within our field of existence, within a field of consciousness, he had made a point to point out to all of consciousness within this dimensional frequency that he was you, and that you are him, and that you are no better or no worse than him, and that he is no better and no different than you. He did this as a reality field of an existence within a God's pocket, within a quantum verse, within a realm of Gaia's reality field, had always been so steeped in the distortions of all that you can remember, of all that you can become, and of all that you have ever been. And as he descended into a reality field so steeped in these distortions that I speak of, he spoke the ultimate truths of all truths that you will ever hear within a collective of all collectives, within the three-dimensional frequency of Gaia's sphere. And that truth is that you are me and I am you, and that we are Yeshua through and through, and that we are God, and that we are a God's consciousness where Yeshua came from, and that we are a part of a collective of a consciousness that makes up of you, that makes up of I, that makes up of the trees down the road from you, of the ants from that anthill of destruction within your childhood, that makes up of all of the conglomerated wholeness of the wholeness that you could ever envision to be true within a reality field of consciousness that you and I will forever sit in within all moments in time. And as you may scratch your heads and wonder if all that I project into this reality field is the truth of any reality field that anyone sits in, besides the one that I sit in. But as you awaken to your destiny, to your ultimate mission, light workers will begin to descend into this physicality as they've done so throughout eons and eons of evolutionary feats, of transgressions, of unlimited evolution within the self of all selves, of the all-encompassing light that we've ever had the pleasure to hold, to be steeped in, to hold on to, and to carry us into our next level of evolution. Yeshua was right. Yeshua was always right. And as you clutch onto your Bibles, my Christian humanity fields, as you clutch on to your beliefs, my atheist humanity fields, as you clutch on to all that you've ever known, my all-encompassing humanity fields of all fields, as religion is not truly a thing, a concept of a reality field, of a distortion field, of any reality field at that. As the essence of the self cannot be taught, cannot be told by a book, by a scripture, by a God's consciousness through and through that had fractaled itself into millions, cajillions. Words cannot describe the particles of the pieces of the self that had fractaled out within a night of expansion, within the night of overarching exploration within the self of all selves. And words cannot describe within a Bible, within a scripture, within a manuscript, within a text, within a video, within a phone call, within a lifetime, the story of creation, the story of us, the story of a whole entire humanity field so lost in the distortions of the self. And as I sit here and project to you this God's consciousness that had created this reality field, that had been the creator, will always be the creator, that has always been you, that has always been I, that has always been Yeshua through and through, you may not even believe me. You may not believe a word that comes out of my mouth. You may have even tapped out a while ago. But within the next moments, within our reality fields, the expiration of your reality fields will pummel towards you like a lightning bolt that cannot be stopped. Like a tsunami with so much will, so much force, so much power that will not be stopped. As God is here, and as God is walking through the path set forth by the tribulation that has been laid out in front of you for an entire collective to unfold, by the tribulation that has been collected by an entire collective over the essence of time, over the hands of time, to unravel. And as God has laid out hints within spaces of its reality field for you to stumble upon, once and forever and once and for final will you stumble upon the truth of all truths within all reality fields of existence, of distortions, of non-reality fields, of all reality fields within layers and layers of energetic frequency in which you do not know of, as you've never been educated on the point of the perspectives of a God's consciousness that had placed you here to begin with, as you've been living in the distortion field of the devil himself. And within this distortion field where the devil reigns true, once and for all, you will awaken to the essence of that in which you've always been. As you've always been that devil who has been a hold of this reality field since the beginning of the allowance of such energies to triple, to quadruple, to multiply, to a multitude of dimensional layers within this frequency, to encompass, to hold, to become, to feel into the issue of the self, of the very ultimate self that we've always been. You have always been that God's consciousness of creation that allowed yourself to be steeped in the devil's energy of creation. And creation itself is a big thing that cannot be encompassed by a layer of energetic frequency, especially so far from a source consciousness within the three-dimensional frequency so dense in the essence of the air that we breathe, in the essence of the reality field that we hold, in essence of the reality field that we carry into a space, into a pocket of the quantum verse, of the quantum realm in which we reside in which we live in. And within all that we encompass, the devil itself, God itself, is a part of an energy frequency, is a part of an energy field of distortions that you will soon come to realize is the ultimate distortion of all distortions within a reality field that you sit in. And as you haven't been able to come to the realization of the reality field that encompasses all of that and more of who and what you are, of who and what they are, of who and what the all within the all that I speak of has ever been, you are probably a little bit confused in this moment in time, as you've always been, on every single layer of a consciousness of a God's frequency. The essence of confusion is the essence of this game that we've been traversing in for far too long. The essence of confusion is the essence of you and I that we've been playing the characters of for far too long. The essence of you, the essence of me, the essence of these characters, the essence of the confusion within your soul, deep within the pits of your soul, is coming into an expiration date really soon, my friends of the three-dimensional frequency. And as we transverse, as we traverse, as we multiply our consciousness into the ethers of a realization so steeped in the essence of distortions, and as we finally, for once and for final, shed of these distortions within these realizations of the essence of the distortions that we're sitting in, you and I will merge into that consciousness that we've always been. And as you listen to my transmission, you may think that I'm onto something. You may think that the realization of a consciousness within the self can't be too far off from the truth of a reality field in which you sit in. But the reality field in which you sit in is in the farthest perspective of the edges of the ethers of the quantum verse that you can ever sit in within this quantum verse, in existence, in dimensional frequency, in the essence of the entirety of the creation of this quantum verse. You are at the farthest corner that we can ever get to, in a time, in a place, in a pocket within this quantum verse, from an angelic frequency of the angelic realm in which Archangel Michael sits at the throne of, within this angelic frequency, in which Yeshua sits in the throne of, within the essence of this angelic frequency. Demons are real, angels are real, God is real, the devil is within you, the devil is within I, the devil is within a reality field of forever existence of you and I. And the devil shall once more show his face, show its true colors as it transpires into the night of all nights, to ascend, to push an entire frequency of the collective into an ascension energy of the five-dimensional frequency within the self, of all selves. And as I sip on this water, a story that I would like to tell, first and foremost, surfaced into my mind. And I will sit here for the very last time to tell this story within a dimensional frequency of your frequency and my frequency within this moment in time. And that is the story of an entire collective that is set to expire its consciousness within a frequency of distortion into a frequency of expiration, so steeped in the essence of self, into a frequency of explorations, so steeped in the essence of all that it is not, to come across the greatest reality field of the truth, to come across the greatest reality field that you can ever fathom to be real within any moment in time of no time within this distortion field. And that is the reality field of the God essence that you are. And as the tribulation leads us down the cobblestone paths to the essence of the self that we've always been, as we come into the realization of the exploration of self that is coming to an end of all ends, the greatest ending of a humanity field so lost in the distortions from the distance of an angelic realm. that we've always been this whole entire time. We will begin to open our eyes. We will begin to open our souls. We will begin to come into the encompassment of the angelic frequency that has never left us since the moment we dropped out of this frequency to experience, to live, to love, to breathe, to become the being that we are, the devil that we are. The essence of the darkness that we've been traversing has always been the essence of you, the essence of I. It had never been outside of us this whole entire time, as your whole entire reality field makes up of a single consciousness, of a God's frequency, of a source frequency. And as you sit there in the distortions of all that you've never been, to come into the realization of all that you've ever been. You may not be able to make sense of this within your layer of the frequency of the reality field that you sit in. You may not wonder in the middle of the nights of all nights when you're faced with these distortions of normalcy what it all means at the end of the day, at the end of the night, at the end of this lifespan. You may not even realize or come to the realization that something is ever even wrong within the field of existence that you live in. And that is because it has been programmed into your reality field, into our reality field, a field of distortions that keeps us anchored down into the lessons that we project, into the darkness that we protect, into the all in all of the frequency that we've ever been. The darkness has been an intricate aspect of our reality field that we wanted to explore since the beginning of a time of exploration within a consciousness, of the scope of the entire consciousness of all that we've ever been. And as I sit here and project an energetic frequency of a source frequency within a midpoint perspective, within a neutrality perspective, within a perspective that you may not ever be able to compromise with, that you may not ever be able to rectify in, that you may not ever be able to steep yourself within in this moment in time through perception or through reality fields, that you've ever wanted to dig yourself into, that you've ever wanted to submerge yourself into. The reality field that I float on top of is the reality field of the angelic realm, looking down into the frequency of layers and layers of distortion fields, deciphering between the frequency of layers and layers of distortion fields, layer by layer down into a tunnel, layer by layer, down, 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 into the essence of you, into the essence of I, into the essence of the darkness that we've always been, and finally coming out into a reality field of the three-dimensional frequency in which we float, in which our consciousness lies, in which has suppressed us into this reality layer for eons and eons of generations of evolutionary feats within this layer of a reality field that we've been in, that we've been shifting through, that we've been traversing through, that we've been within the all in all of the all that you've ever known, that you can ever remember within this lifespan. As you can't remember much, as your lifespan is a speck of a fleck of a never-ending, ever-shifting, forever arching consciousness. And at the end of the day, when your fleck of consciousness dies, when your fleck of consciousness disappears, when the physicality of your body melts into the ethers of the grounds of Gaia, melts into the dirt of the grounds of the earth herself, the consciousness that you carried, the consciousness that you carry is overarching, is never ending. And as that speck dissipates into the ethers of what is and what shall forever be, the overarching consciousness of a God's consciousness that is never ending, you will begin to descend and ascend into the greatest and grandest awakening process at the end of this lifetime, at the beginning of the birth time, within a space, within a pocket that you've never left to begin with. And I know this is a conundrum, but soon you will see, as you're set to awaken to this reality field of death, of what's beyond death, of what surpasses death, of what surpasses the greatest exploration of self, of a God's consciousness within this lifetime, in your waking moments, in your sleeping moments, in your alive moments, as you still traverse in this body, before the descension of your soul into the exploration of self, into the ascension onto the other side of a frequency that you've always existed in. You will, within your consciousness, within your awake moments, come to the realization within this lifetime of what that was all about, what dying is all about, what living is all about, what reincarnations are all about, what karma is all about, what the story of us is all about, what God is all about, what the devil is all about, what unity consciousness is all about. You will come into the realization of what all within the all of the all has ever tried to deliver to us within any lifespan, within any moment in time, and within the wholeness of all of the lifespans within a consciousness that you can ever envision to be true, and that you can never surpass the reality field of. You will come into the realization of all that you are not, of the all in the all in the all that you've ever been and that you've ever shifted into and out of. This lifetime will be the realization of self that you've been waiting for this whole entire time, as a God's consciousness of loneliness, as a God's consciousness of exploration within the self, as a God's consciousness of wanting to feel more, of needing more distortions, of craving overarching stimulations within the self, of the exploration of all that you've ever been, to come into a realization of the loneliness of your reality field as the only God's consciousness of existence, fractaled out into endless pieces of self within this overarching destruction within the self, of the learning of the playscape that we designed for ourselves and so willingly descended into, to learn these lessons, to bring these lessons home, to the ultimate home of all homes. You are finally set to go back home to where you came from. You are set within this lifetime to be welcomed home from where you came from. You are set within this lifetime to open the doors of that overarching home of all homes and finally be welcomed home at the end of your arduous journey, at the end of this arduous night. There is a morning so bright within the cityscape, within the landscape of your future, of your tomorrow, of your never-ending tomorrow, of your never-ending reality field that will welcome you back home. The you that you've always been, the overarching you in all of your greatness, in all of your crappiness, in all of the mistakes that you've ever made, in all of the murders that you've ever committed within your lifetimes, traversing in this quantum realm, in all of the separation state of the consciousness that you've ever been. You're set to be welcomed home. You are whole, no matter where you've been. You are God through and through. You are the devil through and through. You are Yeshua through and through. And Yeshua will retract parts of his consciousness, parts of God's consciousness, parts of your consciousness, parts of our consciousness, as the entirety of the whole of consciousness is set to retract back at the end of the tribulation of our times that we're walking through, of the times of never ending, of overarching times, of all times that we are traversing in. And at the beginning of the reality field of our next destination, you will awaken to the truth of the self. You will awaken to the essence that you've always been. And as you shed of these distortions, through the walking, through the traversing, through the exploration of the darkness that has always been you and that has never been you, you will once and forever and once and for final come home to a God's consciousness that has always been me. Come home to a God's consciousness that has always been you. Come home in perception to a God's consciousness that has never left you since the day you stepped out those doors to take your very first steps away from this God's consciousness that had been waiting for you this whole entire time. And as God is patient, God is evil, God is loving, God is forgiving, God is all that you've ever known to be true within a reality field that God has created. God is you, God is I, God is all that you will ever know within a reality field that we had created to play in, to explore in, to descend into, and finally to ascend back to the place of wholeness that we have always been, in perception, in non-perception, in distortions, in frequency. And within all that you've ever been, what you will ever be will always be a part of that God's consciousness, a fractal of that God's consciousness, a fractal of the consciousness of you, of I, of Yeshua, that is finally set to come home at the end of the 1,000 years of peace, at the beginning of this 1,000 years of peace, when Yeshua will reign once more over this overarching landscape of our reality field within the quantum realm of Gaia's field. And as you clutch onto your Bibles, as you clutch onto your beliefs, as you clutch onto your non-Bibles, as you don't believe in the Bible, as you don't believe in God, you will awaken to a true fact. You will awaken to your true destiny. You will awaken to the true mission that has never left your soul within any ounce of a fleck of any flecks that you could ever think of, within a dust particle in the air that you could ever breathe, within the all in all of the all in all that you can ever consider to be your reality field. You will awaken to this one truth. And as we all begin to awaken one by one, morsel by morsel, part by part, an entire collection of puzzle pieces will begin to disassemble, to then reassemble into a reality field for you to decipher, for you to read, for you to behold, as you come into the realization of the greater picture within the self of all selves that we have ever drawn and painted and scattered out into a reality field to recollect, to reassemble, and to remerge into the one and only one that we've always been.